types. One are this is the height bone. This is the height bone. Okay. So some muscles are above the height bone, and other muscles are below the height bone. And although there are some muscles which are continuous all the way, so we will categorize this in three categories: one which is above, and one which is below, and one which are all the way covering upper and lower margin. Okay, so let's discuss. There are the four supraheart muscles. This is the height bone. The muscles which are above the height bone are the supraheart muscles. There in red you can see this one, two, three, and green one, four. Okay, this green one muscle, this one is the styloid muscle. Okay, it is appearing from the styloid process of the mandible and is inserting into the body of the hard bone. That's why it is called the styloid muscle. And the muscle in the yellow, this muscle, the muscle in the yellow is just have two bellies. One is anterior belly, and one is posterior belly. This one is posterior belly and this one is anterior belly. Okay, so two bellies are of digastric muscle, as its name showing. Di means two, gastric means belly, so it has the belly, two bellies, and that's why its name is digastric muscle. Anterior belly, this one is the anterior belly, and this is coming from the body of the mandible. It is in front of you. You can see that it is a bit coming from the body of the mandible. Okay, and the posterior belly is coming from mastoid process of temporal bone. Okay, you know, here is the temporal bone, the mastoid process of the temporal bone. So the posterior belly of the digastric muscle is coming from the mastoid process of the temporal bone. Okay, so let's discuss this blue one muscle. Okay, first the red one. This red one muscle is basically the Genohart muscle, and the Genohart muscle is basically coming from the inferior mental spine of the mandible. We have discussed mandible in detail, that's why I'm not going into detail of the mandible, and I'm just telling you the names. So it is coming from the mental spine of the mandible. Okay, this is the Genohart muscle. Okay, so the one is left which is in purple. You can see this muscle. I will clear it. Okay, this muscle and this muscle is basically the mylohard muscle, which is coming from the myelod line. You know that the mylohard line is on the mandible, and it is coming from the mylohard line and inserting into the body of the mandible, body of the hyoid bone. That's why it is called the mylohyoid. So four muscles are one is the digastric muscle, this one is the mylohyoid muscle, this one is the styloid muscle, and this one is the genohyoid muscle. Styloid is coming from the styloid process, and genohyoid is coming from the inferior mental spine of the mandible. And this digastric muscle has the two bellies, that's why it's called the digastric muscle. And this mylohyoid muscle is coming from the mylohyoid line, and we are left with genohyoid, which is coming, I have told you. Okay, so function of this muscle, what do you think? If it is coming from this portion and inserting into this, what this muscle will do? Obviously, if this portion is fixed, then it will elevate hyoid bone. Okay, and if it is fixed, then it will depress the mandible. So there it may have the two actions. One is the depression of the mandible, and elevation of the other one is the elevation of the hard bone. These two functions are of these collectively you can say all these muscles. Okay, so if you discuss about the posterior valley, this one is the posterior valley. Posterior valley of the digastric muscle, the facial nerve is supplying this portion, facial nerve. Okay, and if you come about to the anterior valley, it's supplied by the nerve to the mylohyoid. Basically, the facial nerve, the part of the facial nerve is supplying the mylohyoid. So it's you can see that facial nerve is supplying this whole this muscle, anterior valley and posterior valley. Facial nerve is supplying. Okay, let's come to the styloid muscle. The brush. Okay, this one is the styloid muscle. The styloid muscle is also supplied by the facial nerve. Okay, so we have discussed two muscles nerve supplied till now. One is the digastric muscle and other is the styloid, and both are supplied by the facial nerve. Okay, now we will discuss the nerve supply of the mylohyoid muscle. This one is the mylohyoid muscle and it is supplied by the nerve which is the inferior alveolar nerve. Inferior alveolar nerve, and no need to tell you that it is the branch of the mandibular nerve, and the mandibular nerve is basically the branch of trigeminal nerve. Inferior alveolar nerve is supplying the mylohyoid muscle. Okay, so let me turn on the brush. Okay, this one is the genohart muscle. Genohart muscle, this one is the genohart muscle. The genohart muscle is supplied by the uh, this one is supplied by the cervical nerve. Basically, you know that this the cervical spine is here on the posterior side, so the cervical first C1 is supplying the genohart muscle. So the two muscles are supplied by the facial nerve. One is supplied by the inferior alveolar and one is supplied by the cervical. First cervical nerve, we have discussed four muscles. Four muscles are supraheart muscles. Okay,